Expectations grow heavier and higher for the Utah Mammoth on the eve of a critical 4-game road trip.
You are Locked On Mammoth, your daily podcast on the Utah Mammoth, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. I'm veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined as always by longtime team analyst Robyn Leaño, and together we are the dynamic duo that brings you this Locked On Mammoth podcast 5 days a week, each and every single day. We thank you for making us your first listen when it comes to the Utah Mammoth hockey team. Well, we have so much to get into on today's show because there's been a roster wrinkle. We'll talk about that. A big 4-game road swing coming up here, and in fact, 8 of the next 9 are going to be on the road for this Utah Mammoth hockey team. And the Blues, the first game of the trip, Thursday night, they dropped the puck in St. Louis, a team trying to find its footing. But right now, Robyn, the Mammoth are red hot. This is a red hot hockey club coming off a big 4-0 run at home. And the question is, can they keep it going? By the way, today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Robyn, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's one thing to play this well at home, and it was a huge win. As I said, biggest in franchise history over the Avalanche. That was massive. But now you have to do it away from the friendly confines of Delta Center. And this is going to show me even more of what this team's made of.
There are two things that I'm thinking and like circling on my little note sheet, Tom, when going into a game like this. And it's one, it's being away from the Delta Center, right? It's going away. But also two, and so this is someone that one of our commenters on YouTube pointed out, and it's the frustration that this team tends to play up to their competition and sometimes will play down to their competition. I mean, the Blues are probably around equal, but at the same time, we still have to pay attention to. Maybe the Blues might be a little bit struggling and maybe whatever happens, but there still is that level of inconsistent play that has yet to be proven. And again, the game against San Jose, I feel like was a good step forward, but that was a home game, right? You feed off the fans, but this is an away game. It's in St. Louis.
And St. Louis, number one, that's a hard place to play. Number two, the Blues, listen to this little 3-game stretch they're on right now. They've gotten 3 out of 6 points, but they lost to Chicago, took a point from the LA Kings, but then beat Dallas 3-1. Robyn, what hockey team is doing that? That's weird.
That's so
unless
weird.
Chicago is like stealth, low key, even high key better than we knew they were, which I suppose could always be possible, but would be random. Chicago is better than St. Louis in the standings right now. They've beaten Utah, they've beaten St. Louis, but they got 3 out of 6. But they beat the hardest team. They beat Dallas.
Yeah. It's honestly really strange. It really is to see those kinds of things. And to quote what I've been saying for a while now, hockey is dumb. Like
I love when you bring that back up because it's so true. It is so true. Hockey is dumb.
But yeah, no, it really is, because stuff like this happens, right? Where you see things kind of swing in so many different directions that you never know what you're going to get. And when you're the Utah Mammoth, if you went and running off of a high that you just take advantage of what you can and don't take any team for granted. Play your game every single game. And it's hard. I mean, this is an 82-game season, right? We're only, we're not even a full month in, but you want to see that consistency, that they play their way, but they don't try to allow the other team to dictate how they play.
If you're looking for answers for either side early in the season, for Utah right now, I think we saw in the win over Colorado the elements of everything that needs to be working well for them to beat the top teams. But
right.
We also now have that evidence, Robyn, that guess what? They can do it. They just took away their own excuses. Right? Because they played a really good game and were like, look, you can do this.
Yes, exactly. And to go even further on that, there were a couple of things that I was critical about for a while. Like, for example, going into the year, I was critical, for example, about Liam O'Brien. Whenever he played, he would take dumb penalties, especially when it came to those fightings. But what's interesting is Liam O'Brien gets entered into the lineup. Yeah, does he fight and does he get physical? Yes. But at the same time, the team as a whole, when O'Brien is playing a cleaner game than him without.
What do Tusky and Liam O'Brien have in common?
Undefeated this season.
Both undefeated this season. I'm telling you, they're a different team and he's in the lineup. And I think other teams, the opposition, also play with a little more respect when he's in the lineup because they have to. That is a real thing. It is absolutely a real thing. So
these players have to look over their shoulder sometimes because they don't know if Liam O'Brien's going to come in and just dish a nasty shoulder check.
Well, the other thing too is if you take a liberty, it makes the Clayton Kellers, Dylan Gunthers, JJ Paterkas of the world much safer because O'Brien is a player who will go out there and police when necessary. And
yes,
to your point, Robin, when he's being more disciplined about it, if he's only doing it when necessary and then actually contributing, he should have 2 goals, right? One of them was called back. He should have 2 goals right now. Like, is this a new spicy tuna? If so, I like it. I really like it.
I mean, what's not to like at this point? This team is riding everything high, and again, we just need to hope that they continue this through this road trip. And again, it starts tonight against St. Louis.
And this is one of the questions. I'm glad you brought this up. They are riding high. So the question is, this wave that they're cresting right now, there are ups and downs in any season. Okay. There's going to be some low points, fans. Let me prepare you now. They will be there. But the question is, Robin, are we moving the average higher during this stretch? Like we talk about the maturity of the team. We talk about them getting better. Are we moving that average higher? So is there more to go up yet for this team? And they have moved their own bar up a notch or 2 early in the season. That to me, because then the lows aren't as low as they were before. Yeah, you're going to have them. But when your median has been raised, that means when you do have those valleys, they're not as low, they're not as sustained. And that is the mark of a better team, and then a playoff team, and then a championship caliber team.
And you're right. I feel like, yes, that, the average is moving higher. All you got to do is use 2 games particularly as reference. The game against San Jose, right, where Utah scores 6 goals in that game, which, again, they should have, and the game against Colorado, where they won in overtime in a just very entertaining game. Right, that just shows you that this team is where it should be, and it's moving and it's trending in that direction. That the lows shouldn't be that low anymore. You shouldn't lose a game as badly as if you lose like losing in a way that San Jose would, or sometimes, or Nashville has in the last year, or Chicago has last year. I mean, again, some of those teams are doing a little bit better than expected, but still, I'm bringing those up as how they were last year as an example.
I think right now what you're seeing from Utah is a team taking the next steps in its evolution. I think the maturity thing is real. And here's the thing, Robin, they do have to stop playing to the level of the competition. And of course, the other thing is we don't really know who St. Louis is right now. We actually don't know that about a bunch of teams in the division because the top 3 are Colorado, and then Winnipeg and Utah are tied. As of our taping of this show. But then you've got Chicago, St. Louis, then Minnesota, then Dallas, then Nashville. Nashville and Dallas have the same amount of points right now, which is crazy. Weird. So we don't know who any of those teams are just yet, and they're still figuring it out.
Because it's still so early in the season.
Right.
And I think that's why a lot of people is, we can ride high if we want. But at the same time, let's still set our expectations. Let's level it out as best we can, because this is barely even a month in, right? We're barely even a month into the season, and we can ride high because you know what? We deserve to ride high a little bit. But at the same time, We need to be real, because they're not going to, this team isn't going to go, 80-2, right? That's just not feasible. But
that'd be really cool.
Wouldn't that be something, right? That would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, there is those level expectations. But I will also add one more thing, because we're talking about the Blues preview, Tom. There is one thing that we haven't mentioned yet that I mention every single year when this team is up against St. Louis in St. Louis, and you probably already know what I'm going to say at this point.
Do, and our everydayers know what you're going to say at this point. There is a St. Louis native on the roster.
Chesterfield, Missouri native Clayton Keller always has his best games against the St. Louis Blues at the arena in St. Louis.
Yep. Looking forward to that one too. There's a lot more I want to get into here, Robin, when we're talking about not only this matchup, but also looking ahead on the road trip. I also have a nugget about my Winnipeg Jets, because I just did a quick check on this. So I'm going to throw that in there as well. We're going to talk about these road trip expectations. And then there was also, as I said earlier in the program, a roster wrinkle. We're going to tell you what's going on with that and the potential ramifications of what could happen here and unfold even during the course of this road trip. And today's show brought to you in part by Rugiet. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. There's no awkward waiting rooms. There's no in-person appointments. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL. Don't forget to use our code LockedOnNHL so they know who sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Today's show also brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, in case you hadn't noticed, the NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5 in. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you get a little something riding on the action, whether you're a casual fan, whether you love diving into the stats, whether you're following your team, maybe it's your fantasy lineup you're tracking. FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you, locked on Mammoth. Hey, thanks for being an everydayer and joining us. We drop 5 times a week here on the podcast. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. If you're still here, we bring great content like this all the time. Absolutely love talking hockey with you. Go ahead and hit subscribe right now on YouTube. We're available anywhere you get your audio podcasts, and you can always ask your personal assistant to play the latest episode of the Locked On Mammoth podcast as well. So talking about the Blues preview coming up to start this 4-game road swing here tonight, road trip expectations. And of course, tonight is if you're listening to this on a Thursday, road trip expectations here, being away from home now 4 in a row, and then 8 of 9 coming up. It's a tough stretch for the Mammoth. And then we're going to talk about what's going on with the roster. But Robin, in the open, I talked about elevating the bar. And then before the break, I talked about elevating the play. But the expectations are now going up. Look, we raised our bar to playoffs or bust before the season started. And we're not being harsh. We are saying it's time. So now early in the season, one really disappointing game, Chicago. Other than that, not bad to pretty good. Range of emotions in there.
Yeah.
I think this team is taking that next step. But along with that now, here's one thing that this team has never, ever had to deal with. And that's the attention and pressure of actually being an expected playoff team.
You're right. And it's crazy because like what we're hearing is like the ESPN broadcast, for the game against Colorado, for example, put a lot of expectation around Utah, right? A lot of people were who were not Utah fans seemed to be very upset that they were acting like quote homers to Utah, whatever you believe or not, but they were just setting expectations, say, yeah, no, this team is at this stage, they should be where they should be. But there is an added level of pressure, and for a young team, this is still a quite young team that's going to prove to be a test. Is what level of poise do these players have? Can they thrive in these high pressure situations, or are they going to end up crumbling under their own pressure, which happens to a lot of young players,
especially the younger ones. I think the older guys are probably a little bit better prepared to handle this, and that's also why you bring in veteran leaderships. You know what's funny, Robyn? The guys who have won the cups that are on this team are not the superstars.
They're not.
They are in a lot of ways, background players. They are the character actors of this team, but they're the ones who make up the base and the backbone. They're the ones who know how to go about the business of quietly doing their job, showing up every single day, competing, and showing everybody else, hey, this is what it takes to win. I know because I've been there. And they don't have to be loud. They don't have to be flashy. They just have to be there. And in the room, of course, that's why they're there, to be a guiding hand to these younger players, the Coolies, the Paterkas, the Gunthers who haven't been there before.
I mean, other than them both being Russian, why do you think that they thought it was a really good idea to have Simashev stay with Sergachev? Right? Because you're putting him with a guy who has won before, right? A guy who gets it. And, you can go with any one of these players, right? You look at the personality that Nate Schmidt brings to the team. You look at anyone else who has won. What they do is, as you said, they're not being flashy. They're not doing anything. They are setting an example on both on the ice and off the ice, but they're not trying to overshadow the whole team and be and kind of show off that they won the cup. They're just setting the example.
And I am curious to hear what everybody thinks about expectations for this team right now. Where are your expectations? Just tell us. They can be low, they can be high. Wherever you think they are, throw them down there in the comments, because I'm really curious to know. I want to take the temperature of the fan base and find out what people are thinking.
Yeah. But by the way, on a slight little side note, it was something that really got me excited, Tom. Something, speaking of which, but the ESPN broadcast was talking about. But can you imagine 7 games of that?
Yes, I can.
And now imagine the excitement around that. That game alone was super exciting. Imagine a 7-game playoff series of that.
Yeah.
Like, I would.
That would be amazing. That would be a killer first round. It really would. Or even a second round. I'd like to see a second round.
I would love it.
Yes. All right, Robyn, before we talk about the transaction with Agozino today and we get into all that, I want to drop my Jets nugget, because my Winnipeg Jets, I had to defend them again, Robyn. In the preseason show for Locked On, talking about the Central Division, can you believe this? I had to defend them again. I just wanted to do a quick check because, as I said, right now, the top 3 teams in the Central are Colorado, Winnipeg, Utah. Robyn, you just prepare your shocked and surprised face. But the Winnipeg Jets in 6 games have only allowed 13 goals, tied for the fewest in the entire NHL. Defense does not lie. They are where they are for a reason, because they take care of their own zone. And I wanted to tie that in, by the way, by saying St. Louis is not bad, but there are 20 goals against in that 6-game stretch, same as Winnipeg. That is a 7-goal difference. Robyn, that translates to almost a goal and a half more a game that St. Louis is giving up. They're allowing a lot of goals right now, and they're not scoring a ton. So And again, they beat Dallas 3-1, and maybe Dallas is having its own issues with trying to get it going under a new head coach, which is fair. Maybe there's a bit of a runway there for the Stars to put it together, but I'm confident they will. But right now, the St. Louis Blues, their offense is not quite putting it together. By the way, the other team with 13 goals against is Washington Capitals. I did not have that on my bingo card. But the Blues, I don't know. I think that to start this road trip, this might actually be the best possible opponent because you're going to get a fired up Clayton Keller. You're going to get a team riding a high of that win over Colorado, and the expectation of, remember, and there's still a bad taste in their mouth, Robyn, the Blues really hammered home that final cork in the regular season for the Mammoth last year. All of these things, I think, play in their favor coming into this game.
And it's an interesting thing to think about, too. I started just like, and to me, going into these games, Tom, I always like to compare certain stats and be that person. Again, everyone knows me as the stats person at this point, right? For anyone that does care, by the way, one of the actually thing that actually kind of caught my eye, looking at Money Puck, Tom, the difference between St. Louis and the Mammoth. This is on a graph that plots a scatter plot for expected goals versus their Corsi number, where St. Louis has a expected goals per 60 minutes of 3.07, but shot attempts per 60, 55.22. Utah, 3.54 expected goals, so a little bit higher. Shot attempts per 60, 56.25. But it doesn't sound all that different when you put them in two different. But it puts them in two different categories on that plot. Puts St. Louis in the quote bad quadrant, and I want to get your opinion on this. And it puts Utah in the quadrant that's quality over quantity.
I could see that. I don't think Utah is ever going to be a quantity team. Not the way they're set up right now. They have the ability to be, yes, but I don't think that's the way they play. So yes, I am happy.
They tend to wait for the more open lanes. They're not just gonna shoot just to shoot.
I would love to see probably 5 or 6 more shots a game. I think there's still some opportunities where they could shoot and they pass. They're getting better at that. But Robyn, I think they could have 5 or 6 more shots a game. And think about that. That's only 2 extra shots a period over the course of a game. Could make them a more dangerous team, but they just don't play that way right now. So yes, I could see that.
Yeah, and it's and again, as you know, something that we've talked about too, right? Is like they tend to wait, but at the same time, is it took us at least over a week until we finally became satisfied with with them taking more high danger chances.
I mean, right? I'm not satisfied.
They're not 100% there.
I'm kind of half kidding, but the point is, yes, you can always be better. They are getting better at it. I'll say that.
Yeah, they are getting
improvement,
better.
Robyn. How's that?
Yes, and again, because they have a player like Sergachev, you're going to see a little bit of a spread, like a little bit of a more spread on those heat maps.
Yes.
And Gunther, loves to shoot from the dot. So we'll see that happen often. But
Gunther just loves to shoot, which I appreciate.
Correct. Gunther just loves to shoot. If he sees an open lane, he's taking the shot.
Yep. I love that. I absolutely love that about him.
Speaking of taking the shot, you know how I talked about being an equipment nerd, and this is my one last side note before we have to move on, Tom. If you see, I was looking at the kind of stick that Sergachev uses was not what I expected.
Okay.
Sergachev, by the way, so this is for the equipment nerds out there. Sergachev uses a CCM Ripcord Trigger 10, which is primarily it's used for forwards who want the quicker release. I would imagine he'd go for a higher like attacks, right? Which meant for those who go for those slappers at the point.
Interesting. Well, you know what though? I'm sure each guy
And no, and that's the thing.
Every player has
their
what just works for them.
Yeah, every player has their preference, but that's what colored me intrigued. I was like, interesting. He has a trigger.
And you know what's going to happen, and this happens to guys all the time. I see it happen all the time. Somebody will just pick up a teammate's stick. They'll walk around the room with it. They'll flex it a couple of times. They'll decide to try it in practice, and the next thing you know, they've completely switched sticks. So,
oh yeah, no, it happens a lot.
Yeah,
like I feel like some players will probably change which stick they use, like 4 times over the course of their career plus.
Especially as technology evolves, which it always is.
Well, I mean, I think there's a difference between going from like, a trigger 9 to a trigger 10 to whatever, right? That I would see every year. But
well, this goaltender is going to have to take your word for it, Robyn. So,
as someone that owns 3 sticks,
yeah, my job is just to get in front of pucks. So, all right, let's talk about Andrew Agozzino, what's going on with him, because this has ramifications, and there could be a trickle down effect or maybe a trickle up effect.
And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprising fees, prices that jump out right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is just cheer on you for your team. That's where Game Time comes in. It's an app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. And I'll tell you guys this. I was having a conversation with, a couple of our fans on Twitter. They were looking at why tickets were so expensive using other apps. And myself and another fan told this guy, hey, use Game Time because all these reasons. You see the prices will be lower than most of the other apps. You'll see that all the features are included, so you won't be surprised by how it is. You see those pictures. It's just the better app to use. And they looked at it and they were like, oh my God, you're right. These are some of the lowest tickets prices I've ever seen. And so don't just take my word for it. Look out for yourself. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go.
Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here, Locked on Mammoth. Hey, tell your friends about the show. Feel free to interact with us, comment, follow us on social media. Let everybody know that this is your favorite Mammoth podcast. And by the way, we love the comments. Thank you for the encouragement. Really appreciate folks doing that for us as well. And just, saying some good things. Keeps us going, helps us to get a smile about doing the show. And
those confidence boosts, I will tell you, they help. They really do.
You know what, Robyn just loves to hear nonstop Sparkles praise. And I mean, really, what are you going to say negative? But I enjoy it too. I like reading all those comments. I do. I love hearing from you. And even when you maybe don't have something so nice to say, we still, not only do we read, but we also respond. So we're not going to be unfair here. We're definitely going to listen to whatever you have to say. So feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Any criticism we actually really appreciate too, by the way. Like it helps us become a better show by seeing all the different sides, the positive and the negative.
Yep. So hashtag fire Robyn. Let's go. No. I'm kidding. But Nostradamus needs a wizard hat or something. I don't know. We got to figure that out.
There we go.
So, Robyn, Andrew Agozzino, waivers.
Yes.
So let's talk about what this means short-term, long-term for this Mammoth team.
Yeah, so, I mean, based off of the tweet itself when it was put out there, Agozino being waived, and it even said, for the purpose of being assigned to the Tucson Roadrunners. As of right now, Tom, the Utah Mammoth have maxed out on roster spots, 23 out of 23 roster spots. This opens one up, but there's a lot of different scenarios of who can take the 23rd roster spot.
So you and I actually had to go back and do the math here on the potential return of, and I felt bad because I said this to Robyn off air, and I might as well just say it again. I kind of forgot about Alex Kerfoot. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I've just been caught up in the excitement of how well the team's doing. I forgot Kerfoot was on IR. So we had to go back and check and look at Kerfoot, and the potential early part of the window for Kerfoot's return is actually in the middle of this road trip.
Yeah,
So it could
it's
be
early
clearing
next
the
week.
decks. Right. It
It's
could
actually
be
maybe even this weekend.
Yeah.
But
And there's a potential for Kerfoot to come off IR, which would require a roster spot. And that could be the landing spot for Kerfoot. However, Robyn, this is a 4-game road swing. And that date, the earliest projected date, unless he is quietly ahead of schedule and they just haven't said anything, which is entirely possible. But if he's not quietly ahead of schedule, that leaves at least 2, maybe 3, 4 games open for someone else to fill that roster spot.
And if we're looking for another forward, there might be a lot of excitement around a rookie who got signed, who signed his ELC over this last offseason, got assigned to the Tucson Roadrunners, and has been making some noise in these opening few games for Tucson. And yes, I am referring to one Danny Goals Boot.
It would be interesting to see Boot get a kick at some regular season NHL games. Didn't look bad or out of place in training camp, and had some really nice moments. Scored a couple of really nice goals.
He did, and I feel like it can give him the opportunity. He's like, okay, you're playing well here. Let's give you a little cup of coffee, and by that I mean let's give you a couple of games. And the perk about calling up a guy like Boot versus some of the other more veterans on Tucson is you can call them up and send them right back down without any consequence. You don't have to put them on waivers or anything. So you can just call them up, send them down, and when Kerfoot's ready, activate Kerfoot, and we're all good.
This might be the perfect window to get him that little bit of a cup of coffee, see how he does, see how it goes for him. So that is possibly the most ideal scenario here. There might be some fans out there asking, and I'll just head this question off, saying, well, what about some of the guys who went to junior hockey? Could they come up? Could they participate in a couple of games like a TJ Ginla or whatever? That is not on our radar right now. I have not heard anything about anyone having any plans for any of the kids in junior except stay in junior, do your thing. Obviously, Desnoyers.
There is an agreement in place with the NHL and the CHL where like you can't get called up from the CHL. If once you get sent back, you're spending the rest of your year back there.
And so Iginla goes back there. He's there. Desnoyers. Now,
Desnoyers is still recovering from his wrist surgery, I believe.
Here's something I want to know, Robyn, and not that anybody I can think of would fit this case for the Mammoth, but now in the age of NIL, do you think it's possible that in the very near future, we might see college players start to get treated as minor leaguers, except stashed in college? I'm starting because they're now paid, right? So that taboo's not there anymore. I want to see the first team who's going to try it, who's going to bring someone up for a little bit and then send them back down to their NCAA team, because I don't know if they have a contingency in place for this.
I feel like that would require some extensive conversation between the NHL, NHLPA, and the NCAA.
Because in the past, you had to declare to turn pro. So you could still be, let's say you were going to Boston College and you were whatever age, a junior, and you were NHL ready. You could declare then to turn pro once your season ended. As a matter of fact, Cale Makar with the Avalanche did this when UMass lost at the Frozen Four. He turned pro after that. And he lost on, I think, a Friday or Saturday night and was with the Avalanche on Sunday.
Yeah.
But you're not going back to college anymore. So I'm just wondering if in the NIL era, if that may have somehow changed. If there's a loophole there, I'm wondering.
It would be interesting to see what that, if there is a loophole there. And if there is like a nerd out there who goes through and reads all stuff like that and wants to let us know if they find a little tidbit out there, hey, let us know. I'd actually be curious to know if there is something that at least it's vague enough so a team could try it if they wanted to. Not that it's going to matter for Utah this season, because I don't think there's anyone.
No, there's no case study there. But you know what? It'll probably, if there is a loophole, it'll exist until the first team does it, and then they'll rush to close it. Is what's going to happen.
Yeah, it would be interesting, but it's that the NIL also has been a lot on a smaller scale in the hockey world in college than it is in those other two sports, right? In basketball and in football. Like you and I, Tom, we're taking a look at, for example, Gavin McKenna, right? He's like, in college right now and getting $700,000 a year compared to some football player who's getting paid, $8 million.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is crazy. I think, I mean, I know that one of the first names that jumps to mind in college football, of course, is Arch Manning, just because he's a Manning. But
yeah,
it's wild. It's so wild to see what these kids and their kids, what they're getting paid now. So that's nuts. But all right. Anyway, before we get way off into the corner on that soapbox, let's circle back to this road trip, Robyn, because this is a difficult road trip that's coming up here, but a solid test. Let's try our hands at being a little predictive here. So here's the road trip. Thursday, St. Louis, 6 o'clock Mountain. All these times are Mountain time. Thursday, 6 o'clock St. Louis. Then on Saturday, 4 o'clock Minnesota. Sunday, 4 o'clock Winnipeg. So that's a tough back-to-back. Tuesday, 7:30 against the Edmonton Oilers. So take a look at that 4-game stretch, Robyn. What do you see?
It's interesting because based off of how some of these teams are, there's a lot of ways that it could go. I certainly think a 3-1 swing is possible.
Really?
Yeah, I think a 3-1 swing is possible. Is it probable? It's obviously, like I never like to make any, make any absolutes out there or anything like that. But I think 3-1 is possible. I would probably say 2-1-1 is probably where I'd set my baseline. That's what I'd like to see.
Okay, 2-1-1. 2-1-1 is where I was going to land. Either 2-2 or 2-1-1. And I'll tell you why. Because I think they win the first two. I think they beat St. Louis and Minnesota. I think they drop the back-to-back with the travel to Winnipeg. I think they lose on Sunday. And then I think they get a point in Edmonton because Edmonton's goaltending is awful still.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I was looking at Edmonton being that possible extra win. It all depends on how that game goes because Connor McDavid hasn't been like, I feel like he's waiting to heat up. We don't know when he's going to do it.
Let's just let Connor sleep. Let him sleep. I'll even sing him a lullaby. You do not want to wake up Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl.
Nope.
Let those guys sleep. But you know what? I think the momentum continues. And again, if you're not only a playoff team, but a playoff contender. Now, if you want to move into the contender ranks, not just be happy to show up, collect your participation trophy and go home, this is yet another place where you're going to need to pick up more points than you give up on this road swing. And they were good on the road last year for the most part. They were good on the road, I thought.
I mean, it was funny. Last year, they were a better road team at first than they were a home team. But
Delta Center's got its mojo now, though.
Yeah. Between Tusky, the new seats, the new goal horn,
Archie, can't forget Archie.
Still
a big Archie fan. I thought it was fun when Archie met Tusky. That sounds like a rom-com when Archie met Tusky, but no, that there was online footage of that too. So Robyn, all right, I think we're both saying like 2-1-1 on this trip, and that makes me feel pretty good. I wonder what everybody else is thinking, what their call is for this road trip, but that's pretty good. So
yeah. And again, if they do end up 3-1, I'm ecstatic.
Absolutely. All right, Robyn, where can folks find us if they want to comment to us over on the social media side?
Yeah, over on social media, you can find us everywhere on social media. If you want to really get a good quick response, you can find us on Twitter/X at Locked On Mammoth. That's at Locked On Mammoth. And then you can find me personally at Robyn_Leaño. I usually get back by end of day, maybe even next day.
I am on Blue Sky at Tom Talks. I'm on Twitter at Callahan on Air. I'm not quite as active as Robyn, but I am over there. So, I try not to hate my phone as much as I really do in real life. But you know what? Looking forward to this road trip. Let us know what you think, and can't wait to talk to you about how things do indeed go against the St. Louis Blues on Thursday night. For Robyn, I'm Tom. Thanks for being a part of Locked On Mammoth. Newsletters.